Hello and welcome to Lantern Lane Stories. Tonight's story is The Little Guardian of the Stockholm Farm. The night was very still. Snow had covered everything: the fence posts, the old oak tree, the little barn at the edge of the yard. Maja lay in her bed and stared at the ceiling. She was 8 years old and she could not sleep. "It is Christmas Eve," she whispered to the dark. Her breath made a small cloud in the cold air. Outside, the wind moved through the pine trees like a soft, low song. The farm sat just outside Stockholm, where the forest grew thick and the stars were hard and bright. Maja had a grandmother who knew many old things. One evening, sitting by the fire, grandmother had told her a secret. "Every farm in Sweden has a Tomten," grandmother said. "He is very small, no bigger than a wooden stool. He wears a gray coat and a red cap, pulled down over his ears. His beard is white and his eyes shine like two small sparks. He has lived on this farm since before your great-great-grandfather was born. He is the spirit of the land itself at night. When all the people are sleeping, he walks through the barn. He checks on every animal, he feeds them. He keeps them safe from the cold. He speaks to them in words so old, no person alive knows them anymore." Maja had believed every single word, but she had never seen the Tomten herself. Not once. In all her 8 years, she pulled her thick quilt up to her chin. The barn stood dark and quiet against the white snow, and then a tiny light blinked on inside it, just a flicker, like a single candle behind old wood. Maja did not move. She pressed her nose very slowly to the cold window pane. Frost had made small white flowers at the corners of the glass. The clear middle, she could see the barn door. Something small stood beside it. The figure was no taller than the lowest fence rail. It wore a pointed red cap. It carried a lantern no bigger than a plum. The lantern swung gently as the figure walked toward the barn door. The door swung open without a creak. The big horse Bjorn lifted his heavy head. Normally, Bjorn stomped and fussed if anyone came near him at night. He had done it to Maja's father just last week. But now Bjorn stood perfectly still. His ears turned forward slow and easy, like a greeting for an old friend. The little light moved deeper into the barn. Maja watched until her nose went numb against the cold glass. She did not step away. Inside the barn, the Tomten stopped beside Bjorn. He placed one small hand on the horse's long nose, and he spoke. The words were not Swedish. They were not any language Maja knew from school. They were low and round, like river stones rolling slowly over one another. Bjorn closed his great dark eyes. He breathed out a long, warm breath that hung in the cold air like fog. The Tomten moved to the next stall. The cow's name was Rosen. That means rose in Swedish. Rosen had been restless all week, shifting her feet, shaking her big head. Maja's father had worried about her. The Tomten touched Rosen's cheek with 2 small fingers. He said 3 words. Very quietly, Rosen stopped shifting. She looked down at the tiny figure for a long moment. Then she lowered her head and began to eat her hay, slow and calm, as if she had forgotten everything that had been bothering her. Even the farm cat came out from behind the feed sacks. His name was Soot, and he was gray all over. Soot trusted nobody, not even Maja's mother, but he sat down right beside the Tomten's boot and blinked his yellow eyes. The Tomten scratched Soot between the ears without even glancing down. He moved along the stalls with great care. He spread fresh straw under the 3 sheep. He set a cup of water near the old pig, who had trouble reaching the frozen trough in winter. He checked each animal's hooves for stones, running his tiny fingers along the edges. He did not hurry. He did not forget anyone. When he finished, he stood in the center of the barn and was still. He seemed to be listening to something. The only sounds were soft breathing and the creak of old wood in the wind. It was the most peaceful sound Maja had ever heard. Maja crept out of bed. Her feet were cold on the wooden floor. She wrapped her thick quilt around her shoulders like a cape. She tiptoed to the kitchen. The kitchen smelled of cinnamon and pine wood. The embers in the hearth gave off a soft orange glow. On the table, a bowl sat waiting. Her mother had placed it there before bed, just as she did every Christmas Eve. The bowl was full of rice porridge, thick and white, with a pat of butter melting in the very center. A little sugar was sprinkled on top. Steam rose from it in a quiet curl. This was the offering. Always leave the porridge, grandmother had told her. The Tomten works hard every single night and he asks for nothing. But on Christmas Eve, a bowl of porridge tells him he is seen. It tells him we know he is there. It tells him we are grateful. If you forget, if you leave nothing, he does not become angry. But he grows a little sad, and a sad Tomten is a quiet one. And a quiet Tomten means the animals do not sleep so well. Maja lifted the bowl with both hands. She carried it to the front door and opened it very slowly. Cold air rushed in and hit her cheeks like a splash of water. She set the bowl down in the snow on the front step. The night sky above was enormous. More stars than she could ever count. The air smelled of pine and cold iron somewhere far off, across the fields toward Stockholm. A church bell rang, once low and clear, just one ring, then silence. Maja pressed her back against the wall of the house and waited. She waited a long time. The Tomten appeared at the corner of the barn. He moved across the snow without making a single mark. He stopped when he saw the bowl. He looked up at the house. His eyes were very bright, like two tiny stars. He gave one slow, small nod. Then he sat down right in the snow. The cold did not seem to bother him at all. He began to eat very, very slowly. He seemed to enjoy each bite. Maja watched until her fingers and toes were completely numb. Then she crept back inside and climbed into bed. She pulled the quilt around her. She was asleep before her head touched the pillow. She was not afraid at all. She felt, if anything, like something very old and very kind was watching over the house. When the pale pink sun came up over the pine trees, Maja ran to the front step. The bowl was empty, perfectly clean, not even a smear of butter. And there in the snow beside the bowl was one tiny footprint, just one o bigger than a large spoon. Maja smiled. She held the secret a little longer, warm inside her chest in the barn. Bjorn was calm and rested. Rosen had stopped all her restless shifting. The old pig looked content. Soot the cat was curled on top of the hay bales, asleep in a perfect circle. The tradition of the Tomten is very old in Sweden. People have believed in these small farm guardians for hundreds and hundreds of years. In 1881, a Swedish poet named Viktor Rydberg wrote a poem about the Tomten. He wrote about the Tomten's quiet work at night, his ancient words, his patient care for every living thing. Parents and grandparents have read that poem aloud every Christmas Eve ever since. And today in Stockholm, there is a place called Skansen. It is a big open-air museum on an island called Djurgården. Old Swedish farmhouses have been moved there and kept exactly as they were long ago. Every December, a Tomten in a red cap walks among those old buildings. Children stand on their tiptoes to catch a glimpse of him. The animals in the Skansen barn are always calm-aways, well-rested, because some helpers do their best work in the dark and ask for nothing except perhaps one warm bowl of porridge on Christmas Eve. The snow began again outside the window, soft and slow. The farm settled around Maja like a great quiet heartbeat, and so Stockholm also slowly fell asleep. Good night.